Tune in every Saturday night on KZSM.org, San Marcos True Community Radio, for Discover Texas showcases musicians as well as performers, filmmakers, comedians, and you just never know what you might hear on Discover Texas, heard live every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. only on KZSM.org. Share it, listen to it, tell somebody. Discover Texas on KZSM.org. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Discover Texas on the Road. We are in the heart of Central Austin with a dear friend, Mark Rubin. We're at Six String Ranch. Can you believe it? Look at this place, man. These guitars, and I don't even know what some of these things are next level. And you've probably heard them. This place has made a lot of recordings in here, including this man, Mark Rubin. How are you, my friend?
Man, I am doing spectacular, man. I have not seen you in a long time, in the age of a young teenager.
Isn't that bizarre?
It kind of freaky, man.
We've stayed in touch, thankfully, and you know...
it's one of the positive aspects of social media.
Absolutely.
I think we've done our best seeing as we're not digitally native, we're not young enough to have done that. I think that you and I have done a good job of using social media for good as much as we can.
It's hard because it is a demon, but you have to tweak the demon. Certain algorithms of certain sites are better than others, but I try to take advantage of every single one to push my content.
Yeah, but also staying in touch with old friends.
That's the best.
You know, I've got friends from literally around the world, from Russia and Ukraine, for instance. You know, and the way I, keep up with them is on the old Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's how you and I, we're able to coordinate this little thing that we're doing today, which I'm just so happy that we got a chance to do.
I'm glad you made time for it, my friend. Facebook, I don't use the phone a lot. I had been, I don't want to say trapped, but chose a job for over a decade in phone-related service, and I don't want to be on a phone. So the Facebook Messenger is perfect for me.
I know. That's how we got together on this.
Absolutely.
Brought to you by Meta.
So you were in Austin, Texas, I guess kind of a roundhouse on this CD that you've got, or is it proper to say record? The Triumph of Assimilation?
What are we calling these now? Because this is a CD, and for the kids out there that aren't familiar with these are little plastic round discs that we used to encode music on. And we placed them in little players. Here they are. See how cute they are on the back? They're really
You can
pretty.
even do your makeup on it.
Yeah, you can. Actually, Danny Barnes, my buddy Danny Barnes, likes to say, if you've got a fruit tree, you can hang these in your fruit tree and they'll scare away the birds.
There you go.
They're very handy in case you don't want to actually put them in your CD player. A CD player, that's a player that plays these things.
Because they are compact discs.
Yeah, because we don't have those anymore. You don't have CD players anymore. But actually now we just like to think of these as souvenirs of music. Is how I kind of think of them, and something to put my picture on.
That's cool.
But
shot here.
Yeah, this is my new recording, which was made in this beautiful place here, the Six String Ranch, and this is my record, The Triumph of Assimilation. It's my third solo record, and
billed as the Mark Rubin Jew of Oklahoma.
That is my solo act. My name is Mark Rubin. Mark Rubin, Jew of Oklahoma, is the name of my act, and that's the music that I present. It's Southern Americana music from a Jewish American point of view, which, as you can imagine, given recent days, is an interesting point of view.
A magically interesting point of view, how things come around, isn't it?
Yes, it's interesting how things have come around. A lot of things that we didn't think we had to contend with, we're having to contend with again.
We are.
It's very strange. But a lot of that I presage in my recording, unfortunately.
And a lot of these songs about life, death, moving on, staying relevant, maybe?
Well, also the engrossing rise of fascism and anti-Semitism as well, because a couple of the tunes on this recording are English transadaptations of poems by a Yiddish poet by the name of Mordecai Gebertig, who I know real well because I hang out with a lot of people in the Yiddish music and Yiddish cultural world. He was a poet who operated in Poland in the late 30s.
There you go.
Yeah, right?
It's very current times,
yeah,
I'll tell you. So.
Yeah, feels familiar.
Yeah.
And he wrote about, guess what? The rise of fascism and the rise of anti-Semitism. And a lot of his songs were about trying to wake people up and let them know that no, it's getting bad, and that you need to do something about it. You need to wake up and be aware about it, and that we do have the tools to beat this back. We do.
How overwhelming is it that since the 30s and probably before, we've been needing to do something about it?
Yeah, right. Well, there's more of us than there are of them.
Whew.
And that's part of my message. That's part of the message of this particular poet. And he wrote in Yiddish, and there's a lot of people who sing in Yiddish. And I'll be honest with you, I had a klezmer band here 20 years ago, and we recorded his tunes. We recorded some of his songs, the very songs that I record on this record, but we recorded them in the Yiddish language. But who understands the Yiddish language? The idea is to get this out to the people who need to hear it, people who speak English.
Yes. And
not just Jewish people, but people just generally. We need allies. God, do we need allies today? So I felt it was important. I took the literal translation of the poems, and then I changed them a little bit, and then I added stanzas to make them a little more current to our life situation today. And then I wrote a couple other tunes about what it's like to be Jewish in the South. And it's not all doom and gloom. There's a couple little funny pieces on there, but we'll maybe we'll play a little bit off here, so
Absolutely.
people will see what I'm up to.
I think that's a given. Absolutely.
But you can find this on your Bandcamp, and I think everyone has figured out by now that even though Spotify is very handy to listen to music, it's not a way to recompense artists. It's very handy, and I understand why people like to use it. And people, I don't fault them. I don't fault them for using it as a tool to listen to music and find and discover new music. But it does not recompense the artist. And the problem is that what that means is that the artist is expected to go and spend thousands of dollars to create the art, and then not get paid back for it.
Yep.
And I don't understand the hubris of the listening public that they just assume that I'm sitting on top of the $12,000 it takes to make and promote a record. I don't know where they think that that's coming from.
I know that it wouldn't, however, come from streaming independently. Like, even if everybody went to Tidal, who pays everybody the most, it's still not fixing the problem.
Right. But whereas the squarest deal, the squarest deal that there are for musicians is on Bandcamp. And even though it's not the best deal, I'll be honest with you, it's not the best deal, it's the fairest deal going. So if you really want to support an artist, go ahead and listen on Spotify. If that's how you listen to music, go ahead. But if you like the artist, you want to support the artist, if it's me, that's fine. Or whoever the artist is, go over there, find that artist on Bandcamp, buy that record. That artist is going to see a good chunk. I think if the record's like $10, the artist sees like $7.
And on Fridays, I guess it's 100%.
It's 100% of it.
Yeah.
So,
where do you get that?
It's a one Friday a month.
Is that what it is?
Bandcamp Fridays.
That's Bandcamp Friday. Yep.
So that's my recommendation for fans, the true fans, people who really want to put their money where their mouth is. And I know times are rough and everything, but they're a lot rougher. But I just want people to do the economics. We have a saying. Can I curse?
Oh, fuck yeah!
In New Orleans, where I live, they have a saying: "This shit ain't free."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, do you want it to be good? I mean, do you want this stuff to be good? Well, this shit ain't free.
Do you want bead music, or do you want dollar bill music?
Like, do you want to eat food at a place where they don't pay the chef? I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, sir.
Do you want to live in a house where they didn't pay the carpenter?
You're going to get what you pay for.
You're going to get what you pay for.
Amen.
So if you complain about the crappy bands you see on stage, and if you complain about the crappy music you hear on the radio, well, I hate to say this, friends and neighbors, you kind of have yourself to blame. That's because you're not paying for the music. And so if you would support these artists in some way, if you would patronize these artists, then they would have an opportunity to create their art and present you a better art. And that's really all I have to say about the subject.
And that sounds like a triumph of assimilation in itself.
You're so kind to say.
I understand you have some songs.
Oh, you'd like me to sing a song?
Would you play us a song, my friend Mark Rubin?
Yeah. This is from my second record. I'm going to sing this song here. This is by means of introduction. This tells a little bit about what it's like to grow up in Jewish in the South. It's I based this off a comedy routine by a guy named Brother Dave Garner. And, if you were raised up in the South of a certain age, you know who Brother Dave Garner
Absolutely,
was. It's kind of the litmus test, whether or not you grew up in the South. And Brother Dave Garner had a routine called The Great Religions of the World. And he would talk about the Presbyterians and the Methodists and the Catholics. And then he would go, now the Jews, and you're waiting to hear what does he have to say about the Jews, right? And then he goes, now dear hearts, the Southern Jews is good news. It's just them Yankees I'm worried about. That's where I got the idea about
that's
this.
beautiful.
So a Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, Southern Jews is a damn good news. Well, Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, it's just them Yankees I'm worried about. You got them Jews up in Oklahoma. Ask the average landsman. We got them down in Tennessee, down in Mississippi, down in sunny old Alabama. Well, heck yes, I say, can Max shun us lead? Is this to you great news? Cause New York City seems a mighty exotic to a Southern Jew. You know, we're mostly in the agribusiness, just like Tevye milking cows. You can pick our farms out from the rest, from the absence of any sow. You know, our Yankee kids, poor manners, we often must excuse. No pigs in our poke, no, we ain't no joke. We're the down-home Southern Jews. Let me tell you a story. We take our bacon off of our cheeseburgers, and we greet you with a howdy, y'all. You know, we drive to shul on Shabbos in our best-dressed overalls. You know, we're famous for our barbecue. It's kosher beef, so you can't refuse. Got a trucker cap for my keeper. It's the shrine of the Southern Jew. Now, Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, Southern Jews is a damn good news. Well, Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, it's just them Yankees I'm worried about. You know, some folks down here say we pass for white. At least they ain't black. Well, it might be true for some down here, but you always gotta watch your back. It's true, our skin tone gives us much relief. Some days we get to choose. You gotta navigate your privilege when you live as a Southern Jew. Let me tell you about Judah Benjamin. He was the Confederate Secretary of State. On that particular point, friends, you know, we lined up on side of hate. In the war of northern aggression, y'all might think you got a higher score, but if you look down south today, you gotta say y'all sure enough lost that war. Did we kill your Lord? Heck yes we did. Bring him back and we'll kill him again. And the good old boys all belly laugh, cause we're all the best of friends. Well, that sort of talk might shock you. In fact, it might confuse. But it's source like this all the livelong day when you live as a Southern Jew. Well, now, Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, Southern Jews is a damn good news. Well, Southern Jews are good news, baby. Well, it's just them Yankees I'm worried about. Do-dee-doodle-doo-doodle-doo-doo.
Man, I'll tell you what, you make it sound very palatable with the food in the song, I'll have to say. Southern Jews. You got to look out for the Yankees, though, on a lot of levels. So. Being that you are in the situation you are in Oklahoma, Jewish heritage, what's your life? Do you have much support? Like, how, I know you've been involved in a lot of things to spread the education.
Yep.
And as far as, what would I say, population in Louisiana, where does that stand?
Well, the Jewish population in Louisiana is just 14,000 people. Think about that for a second. And of those 14,000 people, between 9 and 11,000 of them are in New Orleans. So, and in fact, Jews make up 0.67% of the population of the South.
Man,
that's 0.7% of the population of the South. So it's never even been 1%. So it's a minority. It's a minority of a minority. So, but what's strange about it is it's always been an outsized minority that has always been represented outsized in so many respects, especially in mercantile and in other words, in business, we've always done really, really, really well. So a lot of those Jewish families in the South are very, very established. So it's a tight-knit community because it's been so, it exists in such a, how shall I say, I'm trying to pick my words very carefully.
Because if you don't, someone else will.
Yeah, the problem is when you grow up in the Baptist lands, when I was a kid, the Southern Baptist Convention decided that one of their things that they decided that they were going to get everybody on was they were going to convert all the Jews. And being a kid, it was really, really rough to have all your friends from school trying to come and testify and preach to you all the time. But then it was much worse when it was your English teacher, like in class.
Because you're supposed to
by the way, the separation of church and state, as far as the educational system in Oklahoma, is a joke, and it still is. I don't think it's any different today than it was when I was a kid in the 70s. I don't think it's any different at all. When you're raised in this kind of, it's almost a combative environment to where the moment you leave the house, you're walking into a Christian nationalist world. And where the only time you ever get to have a Jewish experience is in your own home, or when you drove to Oklahoma City to go to Sunday school on Sunday, or to go to services on a Friday night. So your Jewish culture and your Jewishness became like something really precious that you held on to. And this is a different experience from people, say, who grew up in Chicago or New York or even Miami Beach or something, that had very large Jewish populations where Jewish culture, was just taken for granted, where you could go to a deli, you could get kosher food, you could do all those sorts of things. I do have a song that relates to that experience, if you're curious.
Yeah, that sounds timely.
You had mentioned food.
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned food, so I'm gonna bring
and you've
that
addressed like pretty much everything I'm going with in the somewhat masked question I've thrown you. So thank you. That's kind of what I was looking for, and it's one of those things I guess you've learned to deal with. We'll spend some time talking when you're done picking about how you've kind of made the jaunt from Oklahoma to Austin and became extremely popular and well liked, and everybody had nothing but good things to say about Mark Rubin. And then for some reason you decided to leave this land and go back to Oklahoma.
Can you believe I was called, the Austin Chronicle called me in 1996 Austin's goodwill ambassador.
I saw that.
You remember that? That was ridiculous.
Dude, you just smile and nod, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and the picture they took of me, I was sitting there with a .45 pistol.
God bless.
Well, this is a true story. Since we were talking about like growing up, like how do you pull this off? So I thought about the times that my family tried to keep kosher there in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And keeping kosher in Oklahoma is impossible. And one of the reasons why is because the kosher butchers, who were in faraway places, they didn't have to send us their best meat. You follow?
Yeah.
They just had to send us quote unquote kosher meat.
Yes.
So they didn't have to send us their best cut. They had us by the short hairs. So they weren't exactly helping us out. So at some point it was, and then it was super expensive. You could barely afford it.
But they were doing the right thing.
Yeah, right. And so, and the old joke is nobody ruined kosher food more than kosher butchers. And it was just so hard to keep it up. And there's a lot of lines in this tune right here that are from my life's experience growing up, and we call this tune Down South Kosher.
Nice. Okay.
And a few little things here. I've mentioned some Jewish foods. So non-Jewish people will pick it up. There's a kind of food, there's a stew called cholent that we have on Shabbos, and we're coming up on Shabbos. And so I talk about cholent, and I talk about latkes. I think people know about what latkes are.
Yep.
So, I mentioned bagels too. So it's all about food. So this is called Down South Culture. It's off my new record, The Triumph of Assimilation. It goes like... Died, fried, laid to the side, keeps a southern belly well satisfied. But if you're gonna stay Jewish, well, it best suffice to see bacon as a garnish and ham hock as a spice. Tell me, Mrs. Cohen, why's your cholent so nice? I use bacon as a garnish and ham hock as a spice. If you're gonna keep kosher, gotta work real hard, 'cause everything here's got a little coat of lard. You make accommodations when you live in the South. Don't ask too many questions about what goes in your mouth. Don't want to stick out, you want to get along. So eat that crawfish and sing my little song. Find a bagel worth a tinker's down. Not in the land of the glazed country ham. In the church picnic may be the only meal. So they ain't pork chops, let's call it pink veal. Tell me, Mrs. Katz, why's your locker so fine? I use lard instead of schmaltz, and I do it all the time. If you're gonna keep kosher at the end of your fork, it's best to close your eyes and pray it ain't pork. And if you're gonna keep Jewish, well, it best suffice to see bacon as a garnish and ham hock as a spice.
They would never ever fall for that up north.
No, that's not. The excuses are not acceptable. Yeah, excuses are not acceptable. We were. My dad was the director of the Interfaith Council in our town of Stillwater, and one of the reasons why they picked a Jewish person is because the Baptists and the Church of Christ couldn't get along. So they anybody from the South knows what I'm talking about. So they picked a Jewish person to run the Interfaith Council because they couldn't get along. It was so funny. And so he would have to go to these damn church picnics all the time. And we drove out to the country, man, and this church picnic, and it was like, "What's for supper, Bob?" Oh, goodness. Smothered southern pork chops. And Dad looks at Mom and looks at me, and he just turns to my mom and goes, "It's pink veal."
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So that's a true story, man. No, you get by the best you can. You're set upon by all angles, and you either sink or you swim. And look, man, when I was a kid, we had rocks thrown through the windows, and my dad got spat on. There was a ugly occasion one time when we got pulled over by the sheriff, and he told my dad he'd forego the ticket if he accepted Christ right then. We got a cross burned in the yard.
Damn.
Our neighborhood had a white citizens council.
This would be like in the 70s?
This is 71, 73. Mm-hmm. There were signs whenever a house went up for sale in our neighborhood, the white citizens council would put out signs, making sure that no person of color would feel comfortable in our neighborhood.
Yep.
Things like that. You couldn't swim in Catholics, same thing. They felt that way about Catholics too. People forget. They try and break you, but what it does is it makes you. It hammers that stuff home.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is I think when I left Oklahoma, I kind of was able to come to Texas. What's beautiful about Texas and about people who come to Texas is they get to kind of reinvent themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They can run away from whatever they had from before, mm-hmm. and then they get to experience. They can change their name. They can change their they can change their style of dress. They can they can reinvent themselves, and a lot of people do this.
Absolutely.
And so I'll be honest with you. I think I did too a little bit.
Sure.
I was able to. I was working with Flaming Lips. I was working with all these punk rock bands. I'd been playing in country western bands. I'd been playing in bluegrass bands, and I never really let my Jewish identity slip out, even though last name Rubin is a big giveaway.
Right.
It's a big giveaway for a lot of people, but I never let it slip out. But the thing is that it really wasn't an issue, especially in Texas. It really wasn't an issue until it was.
Right. Right. So did you deal with that? I was going to ask, being in Oklahoma, being that punk kid in Kill Billy, or listening to that crazy music you would be listening to, mm-hmm. Was it the same identity that you had coming to Texas, or is that what you were escaping from?
No, I think I was escaping dumbassery.
Yeah.
I think and look at Oklahoma today. Mm-hmm. I have friends who got caught with like a joint and they're in jail still.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Well, they're Native American.
Well, yeah. There's all those other factors.
I mean, the white guys didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the brown guys, they're still in jail, and which is funny because you can buy Oklahoma-made cold pressed hash anywhere, any dispensary on any street corner now. That's the great irony about Oklahoma. But I mean, look, the governor of Oklahoma the new governor just announced that he claims every inch of Oklahoma in the name of Christ. You know what I mean? So
there's a separation of church and something.
I just talked about that.
Yeah.
So I got out of there to kind of get away from the dumbassery and also just kind of like live a life. Like kind of just try and be normal. Just try and in other words, fly under the radar. And I wasn't going to synagogue, and I wasn't that observant or anything, but it really wasn't an issue culturally. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really an issue culturally in my life until it really did become one, and it became a major stumbling block for me.
Was there a time that made you change into the more active gentleman you are today with this subject?
Well, yeah, it was a very unfortunate occurrence. Bad livers, which a lot of people was going to require some explanation. There was a group here in town that I had with a banjo player by the name of Danny Barnes, and we played around town. And this gentleman right here was an early supporter of our group, used to have us come on play on your show back in 1990, 1991.
I remember, not to interrupt, but the Saxon Pub. The kind of best way I explain the Bad Livers to people is I would go to see these guys, and there was a handful of people, and it was a good time, and drinking occurred, and we all had a good time. And then it just seemed like maybe 3 months later, you couldn't walk through the room at the same gig.
Word got out that it was a good time down at the Saxon Pub, and there was this weirdo band that was playing all kinds of different kinds of American music on the banjo and the bass and the fiddle and the accordion. and the guitar and having a real good time doing it. And that they played American and Americana music with a punk rock energy. Because we were all punk rocker dudes, but we all came from acoustic, Americana backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike a lot of punk rockers who wanted to play country music,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? We were cats who actually did play it all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of played from a different place. And the Butthole Surfers were big fans of ours. They took us out on the road. So this really opens us up to a whole new audience. We weren't playing for the bluegrass people.
Mm-mm.
We never went and played for the country people. We never went and played for the bluegrass people. We played for the punk rockers and the weirdos and the Austin people. And that was like a scene, and it was happening at the Saxon Pub.
Because you weren't at the Broken Spoke.
Nope, we sure went places like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the Bad Livers, and we were doing real well for ourselves. And then at one point, our career got to the point of where now the bluegrass people were listening. They really liked us, and they kind of invited us in a little bit.
They're dollars, too.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. And they signed us to a record label called Sugar Hill Records,
Yep.
which is a serious acoustic music and bluegrass label.
Mm-hmm.
Trepidatious. But we got in there and we were able to make our records the way we wanted to make them. And
Non-bluegrass fashion.
yeah, right. But we made our records.
Yes, sir.
And we were label mates with a lot of serious bluegrass bands. And so we would play these showcases with them oftentimes. So there we were in Nashville. And we were doing a showcase with the Del McCoury band.
Damn.
And I know all those guys. I know everybody. I know the McCoury family, and I know everybody in that band. And I remember getting on the tour bus and having a chat with the guys in the band because I was thinking about relocating. I was thinking about leaving Austin. This is about 1995. I was thinking of, making a career jump.
Right before the dam broke.
I'll be honest with you. Making a career jump, moving to Nashville, and when Bad Livers weren't touring, go and play bluegrass music, right? Mm-hmm. Because I had the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been doing it forever, and everyone agreed I was good at it.
And now a big old foot in the door.
Right, and there I am on Sugar Hill Records with critically acclaimed records, right?
Yes.
And there I am sitting on Del McCoury's tour bus, and everybody there knows me, and they think fondly of me. I'm thinking, right? So
ambassador.
Yeah. So Austin's Goodwill Music Ambassador. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just literally as close as I am to you, sitting there talking with Del McCoury, and I go, hey Dale. I said, hey Dale. I'm thinking about maybe relocating up here to Nashville and trying to make a go playing trad bluegrass. Now, do you hear that sound?
That's exactly what I expected, but yes, sir.
That was the sound I was greeted to on a bus full of musicians. You could have heard a damn pin drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's one of those Tom Waits. What's the matter? Did I say something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I looked around the bus and I was like, what's wrong?
Were they glaring?
No, everyone was just kind of like looking around.
No.
And I look over at Dale and I go, I said, what did I say? And Dale looks at me and he goes, well, Mark, we've already got a Jewish bass player in Nashville. And there it was.
Yes, sir.
And then I said, Dale, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? And then I'll never forget. He goes, we hire out of the church parking lot.
Oh, my God.
Don't reckon we'll see you there.
Yeah. Well, sir, you got your job cut out for you.
And so it's like, well, I can do one of two things. Then he goes, I reckon you'd do better if you just stayed in Texas.
Oh,
Big sitting in.
That's a wake up, huh?
That was a bless your dear hearts moment.
Yeah.
Del McCoy.
Wow.
Right.
But I mean,
is he an anti-Semite? I don't think so.
No.
But what he was doing,
realist?
Well, he was telling me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like people hear that story, like Jews hear that story,
yeah.
And they go, "Dell's what a terrible anti." No, and I go, no. Dell's my friend. He's just telling me like it is. That's how it is. It was unpleasant to hear, right? It was unpleasant to hear, but like, there's one of two things I can do. I can either move up there to Nashville and beat my head against the wall, and maybe and I'm a bullheaded guy, and maybe I can bust through and get to there, right? Or they can all go fuck themselves, right? If that's how they're going to be,
yep,
right? Then they can, because this is the truth. At the same time, a member of the Bad Livers touring band, right? Bob Grant.
Yep.
Who's from Long Island, who did not grow up playing this music. He got a job in a touring gospel bluegrass band.
Twice.
So it's not even being a Christian.
Yep.
It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it was just laid out for me.
So it doesn't become an issue until it does become an issue.
It's not an issue until it's an issue.
And it's amazing how that becomes a thing.
And it's a thing.
You're trying to do you and move on in your life, and here, bam!
And it was like one of those, well, if you're playing progressive bluegrass or weirdo bluegrass or something like that, no. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play good old, like, for real, no BS. This is the bluegrass I was raised with. This is the bluegrass of the church parking lot that I learned in.
I'm going to say things you may have practiced, known, been very accomplished at playing.
Since I first started playing the bass.
Oh, my God.
The very first music I started playing when I got an upright bass, well, I took it to a Church of Christ parking lot on a Wednesday night out back behind my house. And that's how I learned to play the bass. I sing tenor in all the parts in that Church of Christ hymnal.
Yep.
I know all that stuff. Now, am I a believer? No, that's quite all right. How many of those sons of guns are real believers if you want to get down to it?
You want to take that story, turn it around to Slayer?
Yeah.
You know, they believe in the dollar.
So I'm just, it was one of those, the system is,
mm-hmm.
Now at that very moment that this door is shut, a window opens up. And that's when I get a phone call from this guy named Henry Spoznick, who was an old-time banjo player back in the 60s, but his father was a cantor, was a Holocaust survivor and a cantor, and he now runs this organization that teaches klezmer music.
There you go.
And he was a big Bad Liver fan.
Wow. And
he was like, why don't you come up here and help me work at this camp? We need a bass player. We don't have any bass players. Why don't you come up here? And so from 1996 until the camp closed 30 years later, I was involved with that camp. And by being involved at that camp, I got to meet every single one of the musicians working in the quote-unquote klezmer music community, and ended up, man, I'm not joking, having a wonderful career as a bassist and a tuba player, touring all over Europe and points east, playing really wonderful klezmer music.
Absolutely.
Now, but let's look at this for a second. Did I grow up playing this music?
No.
No. I had to learn this music. This goes back to the question, is it nurture or is it nature?
Yeah.
Right? There's kind of some racist overtones
Big
to this,
time. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because I was allowed by these Europeans to go and play Jewish music because I was Jewish. So much so that I actually teach Europeans how to do it. Now, by the way, I've studied it and I'm damn good at it. So, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't get to play the music that I was nurtured with, but I get to play the music of my nature that I don't know anything about.
Wow.
Like, what? What?
It's a little window into why things don't ever change.
Right. It's
you know?
it's this terrifying situation that I found myself in. I mean, there was another situation that was similar when I was working with Santiago Jimenez Jr. You remember him?
Yes.
So I was working with, he's got a new record out, by the way.
Nice.
It's killer.
How about that?
But I produced a couple records from him, and I played bass with him. And I was his bass player, and I arranged for him to have a tour in Europe.
Yeah.
And I got a note, got a fax. Remember faxes?
Oh, jeez.
I got a fax. This is 1993. I got a fax saying, who are the band members for the plane tickets? And I sent the names, I put mine as the bassist. And the promoter sent me back another fax and says, oh, no. If we wanted a white bassist, we could get one here.
Wow. Huh. There you go.
And that was the end of my career with Santiago.
I guess, huh? Wow. That's unreal.
So racism is real, and,
yes.
and it cuts both ways.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you know what I did? I went out and found a Hispanic guy to go, and I taught him how to play.
Oh, I love it.
Do you know what I mean? But you know what? He didn't grow up with the music.
There you go. Exactly. Like, it shouldn't be these walls that I guess they're profitable for reasons, but man.
But you know, the thing is that, there's a further question here. There's a further question that I like. This is what my act is out to identify and asks the hard questions about is, are you going to other us? I mean, a Korean kid who's born and raised in Mississippi, whose parents were born and raised in Mississippi. He's from Mississippi. He's a Southerner. But do his neighbors consider him a Southerner? Or do they consider him somebody from the outside? So, it's like, and I'm going to rail on this for a second. It's like when Austin Chronicle puts klezmer music in the world music section. This is bullshit. We're from here.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. You're basically saying when you put it in the world music, when you put klezmer music in the world music section, you're saying you don't belong here. You're from some other place.
Yep.
So go fuck yourself. We belong here. We've been here. I'm from here. So the whole point of my act, Jew of Oklahoma, is hey, motherfucker, I'm from here. I am Jew of Oklahoma. Here. I'm from here. You can't say I'm the Jewish bass player.
Right.
I'm the bass player.
God bless.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm the fucking bass player. I'm the bluegrass bass player. I'm not the Jewish bass player. If that's you, you're putting that on it. So if you're going to other me like that, I'm just going to other you back.
Yep.
And I'm going to put it right back in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So that, my friend, goes back to punk rock.
That is punk rock, dude. That's the heart of it all, dude. That's just it's a mindset. It's a way of life, man.
I mean, it goes entirely back to my punk rock training. Is it this is all, everybody is walking past this stuff. They're whistling past this stuff.
Yeah.
No one's talking about it. And, they're letting it go. They're letting it go. And now look what's going on in the news.
Yep.
It's because they just let it go and let it go. And this is what we got now. If you continually other a person.
Yep.
You continually other them. You continually other transgender people. You other them as if they're some other kind of person.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Then you can do horrible things to them.
the boxes they're all put in. The headlines are categorized based on that content, and one after another, man.
And so the whole idea that I have for this project that I'm doing, and the record, A Triumph of Assimilation, which, by the way, is not a statement, it's more of a question, because of the way with which, Jews have assimilated into our country, but like, to what end? You know what I mean? How many of our values have we given up?
You should be excited you're accepted.
But I mean, how much, hey, look, man, back during the Civil War, Jews owned slaves. You know what I mean? They assimilated really well into the South. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
So how many of our values do we give up to enter into a society? Like, that's the triumph of assimilation, is when you have given up too much of the great things that make your culture beautiful, to join into this other morass that may not be worth it. So the title of my record is more of a question than it is an answer, and I hope that's how it's taken. I know that we're talking about Jewish themes here and everything, but I think that they relate across they relate across the board for marginalized people altogether.
There you go.
I would hope that that's the case.
Yep. And I think that label of marginalization in this world of division that we're dealing with, I don't know one person that's probably not falling into something in that category.
Precisely.
Yeah. So you have some guitars. I'm going to try to convince you to play some more music here. If you are checking us out just now, it is Discover Texas. I do a radio show every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. on kzsm.org. We're down here in the heart of Central Austin on Six String Ranch, and this place is beautiful. So thanks to the folks with Six String Ranch for letting us come in here and feel at home, and thanks to Mark for letting me do this. So Mark is going to do another track from his latest CD. Remember, folks, shiny little things you can put in and hear music with. The Triumph of Assimilation. And Mark, what you got, my friend?
Well, speaking of punk rock, also old-time music, there's a form of song in old-time music called a murder ballad, right? Where you recount a tale, you recount a story. About some awful circumstance where somebody ends up dying. So I thought a lot and hard about a guy named Leo Frank, who Leo Frank. I'll give everybody a moment to Wikipedia that for a second, because I'm not going to tell the story about the events leading up to his lynching. So I'm going to tell you about his lynching. Also, there was a lot of people are into old-time music. They like this guy, Fiddling John Carson. There was a very famous fiddler named Fiddling John Carson, and he is much beloved in the old-time music community. And I'm going to try and dissuade people of that. It's called The Murder of Leo Frank. Come gather round, people, a story I shall tell. I sing today of Leo Frank, it's a tale not known so well. Well, you might have heard the ballad, or you might have sung the song about poor little Mary Fagan and how it was that she was wrong. Well, my story's not about the crime, or about the so-called trial, when Leo Frank, the innocent, was found guilty and given time. Leo Frank's been gone, but his memory lingers on. Convicted by all press accounts, railroaded by the courts, thousands came from all around for Frank's life to make sports. And out on the courthouse steps, old John Carson could be heard, making songs right up on the spot for the hundreds gathered there. He sang, let's hang that little Jew, let's hang that little Jew. Come on, let's hang that little Jew, let's hang that little Jew. It
It was the 17th of August. It was on that fateful day 6 cars filled up with angry men to the Midville prison came. Well, they drained the gas tanks, up the cops, cut down the telephone wires, handcuffed the friendly warden, and with Frank they did goodbye. It was out in Marietta, at a spot did they prepare. There's an old oak branch and a length of rope and a rickety old chair. Leo Frank's been gone, but his memory lingers on. Killing had been done, all the men they gathered round to get a picture of themselves with Frank's body dangling down. There were prominent politicians, sheriffs, policemen too, well, the captains of local industry and the founder of the local scout troop. Well, the Knights of Mary Fagan, all the Klansmen cried with glee, burned a cross on Old Stone Mountain for all the world to see. They sang, we hung that little Jew. Ah, we hung that little Jew. Yeah, we hung that little Jew. Well, they hung that little Jew. Well, the Jews of old Atlanta, well, they thought they'd had it made, but now hundreds fled old Georgia for the safety of a northern state. There'll be no menorah in your window, no more sukkah built outside. Them that did not leave right out, learn to hide it. Learn to hide it deep down inside. Leo Frank's been gone, but his memory lingers on. For little Mary Fagan song, John Carson can we thank. But next time you're in services, sing a Kaddish for Leo Frank.
Wow, man. At their Leo Frank, this particular piece, was this, where did it come from? Was this an interest of your own? You've developed this out? Was this a...
Yeah, the story about Leo Frank is that, there's this mythology about lynching in the South, and there's this thing about the only white man ever lynched. And they talk about Leo Frank. Well, Leo Frank wasn't white. In the teens, Jews and Italians and immigrants weren't considered white in this country. In fact, there were many Italian Americans lynched in New Orleans. That's a story not often well told. That's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do lynching songs.
Unfortunately, plenty of material.
I've got the one going. The thing about Frank was that it was drawn out in the press, and it just went on and on and on and on. And it was just so obviously a public display of anti-Semitism. And at the conclusion of, after the day he was lynched is also considered the beginning of the Anti-Defamation League, was founded at the same time. It's the founding of the ADL. And though the ADL, in my mind, is somewhat problematic today, they do a lot of really great work, and they are a voice against anti-Semitism and anti-Judaism in this country. And so it's an important chapter that needs to be understood. That's all I have to say about that.
There you go. And you are based out of New Orleans these days?
I live in New Orleans, I do.
You've been dealing with some things, the weather. You've had some physical setbacks.
Yeah, I've had a couple setbacks. We've had, since I've moved there, I've left town twice now for for tornadoes. I'm from Oklahoma. This happens all the time. I'm from Oklahoma, so I call them tornadoes. They get so mad at me. Yeah,
Hurricanes.
I would take a tornado over a hurricane any day, because a tornado just comes out of nowhere and destroys everything. A hurricane, you can see them coming. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this existential dread. And we actually watch them as they come off the coast of Africa now. I mean, we literally watch them form and then they come at us. And Ida was really awful. Yeah, Ida was the worst. And our infrastructure there in New Orleans just can't take it anymore. And those storms it's making everybody miserable. But we bought a house, so we're staying. Yep. What's really funny is that we were in Nashville at my fiance's family's house. Bugged out. That's what they call it when you leave town. We were bugged out. And there we were, worried about this hurricane, and we were like looking through Zillow, looking to buy a house. You know what I mean? Like, this is how you know you're a New Orleanian, man, is when you're shopping for a house in the middle of a hurricane.
Do you get flood insurance? Like,
yeah, you do. And you don't want to know what it costs.
Oh, I've paid it. I was flooded. I understand. Yes, sir. Left my home in a rubber boat. So
yeah, man. But the good news is that our house is on the second story, so we've got a 2 stories.
And you do swim.
I'm really good.
Good to hear.
I'm good at swimming.
So you'll be safe.
Yeah, I'll be safe. I'll be really safe.
Do you feel like Austin and New Orleans are polar opposites, or I'm gonna say something advisedly here again. Do you remember Nancy Griffith? Yes.
Okay. When Nancy Griffith left Austin, right? You remember what she did?
It's been so long, man.
I know. I'll never forget. I'm talking about the Nancy Griffith disease. When Nancy Griffith left Austin, she talked shit about this place to everybody who would listen. Yeah. She just went on and on and on about what a terrible place this was, and how it was never going to be good again, and how everybody who still lived there was an idiot. And when was that? 1993? 94? And I thought, well, that's pretty damn ignoble, And I'll tell you another story. When I first moved to Austin, I met a lot of the old salts, a lot of the old cowboys, and they were like, well, son, you missed it. Old Soap Creek is closed, and the Armadillo's gone, it's never coming back. And the punk rockers were going, oh, Raoul's, it's gone, it's never coming back, the Cannibal's closed, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So the hillbillies and the punk rockers were telling me it was all done.
Remember the Doug Somm letter in the 70s?
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff. So there's this cyclical thing about people, having their time in a space, and then that time goes on and the cycle turns, and it, you know what I mean? And then people get pissed off that the thing turned.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And no, man, there's a time and there's a space. And I think for a certain kind of person who's moving to Austin, this is just the greatest place ever. And they're going to make great lives for themselves. They're not anybody I want to know.
I think the lyric goes, it could only happen once. I saw Mark Rubin stage dive.
Yeah, man, the Rockbusters.
Last
Friday night.
Last Friday night. It could only happen once in a lifetime. I saw Mark Rubin stage dive.
Yeah, there was a rock band here in town. There was a punk rock band called the Rockbusters here, and they had a song called Last Friday Night, and there was a line.
True story.
They had a line that went, it will only happen once. I saw Mark Rubin stage dive. That was true. I stage dove at a... it's on film, by the way. If you want to look this up and watch me stage dive at a punk rock show, look up the video for Ultraviolet Rays by the group Agony Column.
Produced by the ever-popular Johnny Medina.
Yeah, so if you look that up, you will see it online, and you will see a very large man in a black in a black denim jacket, wiping out a bunch of people.
It's been on MTV?
It was on MTV. I was actually, my stage dive was on MTV. But
That's beautiful.
But see, it was a beautiful time. I mean, it was like, wasn't that a great time? I mean, and there's a great Yiddish song called De Rege, which means the wheel. And it's basically, you know, when you're at the top, when you're at the height, you should never grow so haughty, right? Because there will be a bottom.
Yep.
So you should never grow so low. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I've been hearing this in New Orleans. All these people telling me, "Oh, you missed it." You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like it was before the storm. And I was like, hey, man, I was here before the storm. I remember what it was like back then. No, it's not like that. It's different. It's going to be different. It's in a constant state of change. Do we really want things to stay the same? Hey, I remember when we didn't have the kind of social progress that we have now.
Yep.
I remember back in the 90s, you know, homosexual people couldn't like show public displays of affection.
Absolutely.
I remember a lot of terrible things. We've progressed in a lot of ways. So if you want to trade off about the good old days, man, I mean, do you want to go back to that? I mean, do you want to go back to putting people back in the closet? Do you want to go back to race relations? Do you want to go back to that too? Because those things go together.
They do.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I wish to progress. I wish to move forward. I wish to progress. And to do so means not to look back and go be super nostalgic. Yep. I was sitting there with Pops Bayless from the Assam Street Spankers and from Shorty Long, genius musician. And he was just talking about how because of the economics of Austin and the ageism of Austin and the music scene really not really happening like it used to, he doesn't think he's ever going to play live again, which is, you know, it hurts my heart. You know,
I caught up with Pops recently, man, and he played my ukulele, and I was like, dude, yes,
it hurts my heart that people won't hear him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know what he said to me? He goes, I was a soldier, I was an actor, I was a painter, I was a musician. You know what I mean? And now I'll be something else.
He's got a great look on it.
Do you know what I mean? So like that's how I looked at it. I lived in Oklahoma. I lived in Dallas. I lived in Austin. Now I live in New Orleans. It's quite all right. Are they opposites? No, they're not opposites. They're different places.
Yep.
One of those places has culture.
I like that answer. Amen. Good. I was the guy not too long ago, you know, that was like, where's the reunion? Where's all the agony column and whoever, you know, and
grow up.
Exactly.
Grow up,
I came to a realization that it's today.
Grow up.
Yeah.
Grow up, man. Like, do you want to be like the 40-year-old man hanging out at the high school parking lot? Because that's what you're doing.
And the vibe is 100% that.
That's what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
Like, the weird thing about Bad Livers, for instance, is that Bad Livers never broke up.
Yeah.
We never broke up. We did.
You were right before pandemic going to do a show, if I'm not mistaken.
We had gigs on the books. We had gigs on the books, and we have we made a record. We did a recording and stuff. We had a record in the can and stuff. But actually, I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen anymore either. Pretty much for the same reasons. You know, like, hey, come on, man, there's stuff to do. Like, I got this record. Danny's got stuff to do.
I mean, you guys make great music together. So should the opportunity ever present from a fan angle, I would appreciate. But I wouldn't come up here and ask you to play the catalog. I'd be like, what'd you write?
Yeah, we got new stuff. There's stuff to do.
Yeah,
stuff to move forward. And there's this whole thing about unoriginality and. It's just cover bands.
I think we have enough tribute bands out there.
Yeah, even a tribute to your own band is still pretty.
Pantera.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Tonight's their first show as we tape.
Oh, wow.
You're probably
that's
right
great.
at this moment.
I love Pantera.
I love Pantera. I want to say big props if anyone's listening to my buddy Metal Mike, who sat in on guitar for rehearsal since Zakk Wylde was doing tours. My good friend Mike played guitar with Pantera so they could get up to speed and play that gig tonight.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful.
What an amazing thing. Texas, y'all. So Texas music is a broad title. I'm not good with boxes. We talk about klezmer. We talk about punk rock. We talk about bluegrass, you know, and it's music. And I think the favorite saying is good and bad. There's two kinds. So.
There's only two kinds, and I like them both.
Yes.
That's what I said in the interview in 1991,
That's
dude.
so good, dude. It's all coming around. It's all coming around. Nathan sends his love. And couldn't make it
I did that interview with Nasty Nathan, man, and I went back and reviewed that interview that I did with Nathan in 1991 on CapZeyeZ, and I said, "There's only two kinds of music, good and bad. And I like them both."
That's beautiful. I'm going to ask you to play some music.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me do you one about the encroaching rise of fascism. So there was a guy. His name was Mordecai Gebertig, and Mordecai Gebertig was the Yiddish poet I was talking about, and we only know about his work because it got smuggled out. He was in an internment camp north of Krakow, Poland, in 1940. A lot of his stuff got smuggled out, and he was a very well-known songwriter and singer, and poet, and his stuff got passed around, and that's how it got kind of in the air. And he was in the Krakow ghetto, and they were cleansing the ghetto to send everybody to Auschwitz. And evidently, he and his wife were uppity, so they just got shot right there.
God.
So so that's the story. I think his daughters made it, but he didn't. And this song right here is called Es brennt, which means it's burning. So he wrote it about a pogrom of a little Polish town called Przemysl, I think. I can't. Polish names are bad with me. But it was in 1936. There was this terrible pogrom where they burnt down this Jewish village and killed everybody. And so he wrote this song basically about, like, look, this is what's going to happen. Like, if we don't do something right now, that's going to be not just the village. It's going to be everywhere. All right. Yeah, I actually recorded this tune 20 years ago in its Yiddish form, kind of in a klezmer form. But this is just an example of me trying to reclaim my American self. I got a banjo for my 13th birthday for my bar mitzvah, and so this is some of my Jewishness on the banjo. It's a tune called "It's Burning."
Said it's burning, yes, it's burning. Everywhere it's burning around, but your arms are crossed and you're staring down. It's burning. Said it's burning, yes, it's burning. Listen up, you whole damn fools. Pick up a bucket, you got the tools. It's burning. Said they're going around and taking names, putting every home to the flames. It's burning. And if there was any doubt, there ain't no fireman to put it out. It's burning. Said it's burning, yes, it's burning. Everywhere it's burning round, but your arms are crossed and you're staring down. It's burning. Said it's burning, yes, it's burning. Listen up, you whole damn fools. Pick up a bucket, you got the tools. It's burning. swallowed up our town, but your arms are crossed and you're staring down, burning. Where there ain't no rain, there ain't no flood. We'll quench these fires with our blood. It's burning. Said it's burning. Yes, it's burning. Everywhere it's burning round, but your arms are crossed and you're staring down. It's burning. Said it's burning. Yes, it's burning. Listen up, you whole damn fools. Pick up the bucket, you got the tools. It's burning.
All right, if y'all just tuned in, this is Discover Texas. We're here with my good buddy Mark Rubin. Been decades I've known this guy, not to date our gray-haired asses, but here we are, 2022, and it's a pleasure to be here, hearing him sing music and be able to educate folks with stuff that he has grown to kind of be a part of, whether he chose to or not. Might be a good way to look at that. So that track, by the way, Burning, as are all of these tracks, astonishing stories. And I believe you had mentioned how these writings came about from the Yiddish fellow that you had, translate. Is that a fair?
Yeah, the word that we're using is transadaptation.
Yes.
Because, if you just do a flat translation to somebody, kind of slavish translation, it doesn't, necessarily work out or make sense to our conditions right here. You know what I mean? And so I took the gist of the song and in many cases used precisely the same thing. Like in that last one, I said, there ain't no fire, there ain't no flood. We'll quench these flames with our blood. Well, we'll quench these flames with our blood comes from him.
Yep.
Right, but there ain't no fire, there ain't no flood. That's me.
The origin of those writings were when?
That was from 1936.
Exactly. The parallels to today are...
Yeah, the parallels are a little stark. I mean, there are a lot of Jewish people I know right now who are feeling really 1932 right now. That's amongst us right now. That's how a lot of us feel right now. We feel a little 1932-ish right now. And we really need our friends to step up.
Is it voting? Is it community?
It's just voting.
Yeah?
It's just voting.
Because gerrymandering.
No, it's just voting. Like, it's voting and being politically active. And, like, do you know how many people I know right now who are, staying quiet or even supportive of Ye right now? Like, it's insane. Like,
I can't even imagine.
Look, man, my Jewish jazz musician friends right now are despondent at how many of their African American co-workers have the way that they've behaved in recent days. They're finding out who the friends are. Let's put it that way. They're finding out where they can go to hide.
I would have never thought in a million years that there would be a second guess as to him receiving zero support and being. Now, mind you, we're both punk rock. We both believe in freedom of speech, and you should be able to say any and everything you want. But good Lord.
Well, I think you should too, because now. But see, the thing is there has to be consequence for that speech. That's as simple as that. I mean, talk, keep talking. Let's hear you keep talking, because now we know. Hey, look, man, let's go one further. I'm bipolar. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot blame mental illness for this. I am a deeply bipolar person, but I stick to my meds and I stick to my therapy, and I'm committed to getting well. Right. So, but this whole thing, well, he's mentally ill, and this further stigmatizes mentally ill people. So it's even worse, So
it's inconceivable.
But that's as much as I want to say about that particular subject. But we have this. Even let's take anti-Semitism out of it. Let's just call it xenophobia. We just have the encroaching rise of xenophobia going on right now, and just not enough is being done to address it. I mean, sure, we're listing our pronouns on our business cards, but you know what I mean? And we're on Twitter, but that's not going to do it. People are going to have to put their skin in the game, and that's my message.
We did in Texas. I was looking at the numbers today, and I'm still not happy about it. And I'm a little surprised that we're celebrating having 46% of our registered voters vote this year. Now, mind you, the celebration is over the fact that the previous election was 24%.
You know, that's pretty good.
Yes, exactly. So I agree. It is good. But to state that less than half of your registered voters voted just seems like something's broken.
Yeah, we're going to need to really, I mean, like, we need, you know, also, you know, I just finished a book that's really fascinating called Jews Don't Count, which is fascinating, that talks about the fact that sometimes Jews are a minority, but sometimes they're not. So it's a book that I kind of strongly recommend folks pick up. It's a book for progressives. And it posits this interesting concept that I've just run into that has to do with how anti-Semitism is dealt with and how it's basically not and hasn't been, because a lot of people don't see Jews as a marginalized group in our country. A lot of people see them as being fully assimilated, and not only that, in places of privilege and power. So how could they be marginalized? Right? In other words, well, they're at the heads of all these studios and that they're the heads of all these businesses and they do so well. So
it lies the stigma that also keeps it down.
No, see, you're following.
Yes.
So you see, in other words, you're following the logic.
Yeah.
So, well, their skin is white and they speak English, so they're not going to get hassled by the cops. This is true. Absolutely true. And so that they're enfranchised the way that Caucasians are.
Yep.
And they speak English, you know, so, and they're not immigrants, so they're, you know what I mean? So so in other words, how could they possibly be a minority? How could they possibly be marginalized? Hey guys, I carry a gun. That's my Jewish privilege. When I go to my synagogue, we have a metal detector. That's my Jewish privilege. Like I tell my fiance, I said, this is what you have to know about me. When I get up in the morning, I turn on the television and I say, where are they killing Jews today? Wow. That's Jewish privilege. That's the privilege. You want to talk about the privilege Jews have in this country? That's the privilege we have, right? So tell me again how privileged and enfranchised we are in this country. Right. So I ain't going to lie. If I get pulled over by the cops, I get everything a white man gets. Right. And I pass for white really, really good. And we do. And we get all of those benefits of white privilege. We really, really do. Until we don't. And it's the until we don't, it's a provisional card that can be pulled whenever the dominant society decides they want to pull that card. Yep. Whenever it's handy. So the Jews control Hollywood, right? Whenever it's convenient. Or the Jews have done very well in this country, so they're wonderful members of our society.
We've treated them so well.
Right. Isn't that great? They're part of the patchwork quilt of this country. Or they're a fifth column who bleed us dry. Who exploit the labors of people. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's you know, in other words, so many people, especially on the left, especially amongst progressives, it's almost entirely in the progressive community. Do you find this idea that how could they possibly? And then there's also this unfortunate conflation with Jewish issues and issues that have to do with the political state of Israel.
Wow, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So, hey, man, I'm just going on record. I don't really care what goes on in other countries.
It's tough, man.
Me, personally, I don't care what goes on in other countries. Israel's another country. I don't care what's going on over there. You know what I do care? I care about human rights. So when countries are abusing their indigenous populations, and not support. So I support human rights all around the world, whether they be in Israel or Colombia or Venezuela, wherever, Indonesia. Like I don't, so
Iraq
or wherever.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that like how, so there's this conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And it's just makes you want to pull your hair out sometimes because you have no allies on the left now. So you have no allies on the right of you, no one on the right, no one on the left. You're left out to hang out to dry entirely. And that's the situation that you find yourself in. And it's more and more every day. It's the drip, 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 drip that brings us now to the clock. You want to talk about the Wayback Clock? 1932.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's Jewish privilege. You want to talk about the privilege I have? The privilege I have is a Sig Sauer 365 XL with hollow points.
Nice. And you were playing shotgun earlier, right?
Yeah, I was out shooting shotgun the other day. I don't mind. You look, I didn't used to do this way. I didn't used to be this way. I used to have a nice hunting rifle. Now I have an AR-15.
It's a different day and age for sure, whatever it might take. I won't second guess another person. It's a fine line to walk when we talk about guns and protection, no matter what color you are. Some others have definite more issues with it. And that's a great point. Do you find yourself doing shows at this point at home, or other than coming out here to do this thing, are you playing in New Orleans?
I don't foist this on New Orleans.
Yeah. Because how do you, I guess not so much are you playing was the question, was more of how do you address this with crowds live through your music? Everyone's drinking and having a good time and they hear your songs.
Well, here's the deal.
Base.
I got to be honest with you. I don't really present this that I'm doing now except to willing audiences. Good. Because this is punk rock. I'm kicking you in the throat.
Yep.
Like this is uneasy listening.
Yep.
My friends who've come to see my show, say when I performed in Toronto or DC or Kansas City, some of the shows that I've done, they were like, the one guy said, I was not prepared for your anger, but his response was, I get it.
If you push somebody's button, you're doing the right thing, my friend.
Yeah, when I get people picking up and walking out of the show, it's like,
you weren't supposed to be here anyway.
Like the key is that there are other people who are in the field who are here to entertain you. There are other people here who are in the field who are here to make you feel better. There are people here to like take you away, and make you feel, take away your worries and cares. And I am here to do the exact opposite. I'm here to make you feel very uncomfortable about your position. I'm here to question you a lot. I'm here to challenge you a lot. Like, I am singing Holiday in Cambodia. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm back to my Black Flag Dead Kennedys days. It's just this is the format in with which I have found through my life's experience and this is the topic, the ballywick that I've found that I am most capable and I have the most agency to speak about. That's all I have to say about that.
So out of these, blessed interactions, of which I consider this to be one, you have some music you might share with us that is going to keep us on the path of the message.
Oh yeah, I got a good one.
Yeah,
yeah. This will fuck you up.
I like it. I like it.
So I'm going to go back to that same poet. Okay, Mordecai Gabberty, and this is one of his poems. It's the first track on my record, The Triumph of Assimilation. It's called A Tug for Nechama, A Day for Revenge.
Ah, yes. There's plenty of days for revenge. Why pick one?
Because it was written at a time when the camps had been opened and people were getting lined up and shot.
Yep.
And people were feeling really bad.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't know what to do, and they didn't see a future. So Gewurtig wanted to give them a future, but not just a future, but a Jewish future. What was a Jewish future going to look like? So.
Listen close to what I say. There'll come a time, there'll be a day, and though it seems so far away, I promise that we'll make them pay. There'll be revenge for the suffering and pain, revenge for those who still remain. Oh, that day will come along when we right each every wrong. There'll be revenge for the widow orphan. It must suffice for the millions blood sin sacrifice. Our prophets cry out for us to awake. For retribution, so shall we take. We'll have our revenge for the suffering and pain, revenge for those who still remain. Oh, that day will come along when we right each every wrong. We'll have our revenge turn its back on war. I can see it clear on a distant shore. It comes to us like Noah's dove, a message of kindness, peace, and love. That's our revenge for the suffering and pain, revenge for those who still remain. Oh, that day will come along when we right each every wrong. That's our revenge.
Revenge of such like evil things to be done with sweetness and kindness.
The Jewish response.
I mean, what a passion. Like, you know, I get like ripping someone's throat out, you know, that kind of revenge. But the sweetness and kindness thing, I should listen to that song a little more. I've had people tell me that. I've had people not tell me that and see it in their eyes. Are you listening to any of the modern music these days, Mr. Mark Rubin?
Gosh, I do, but it's not American. I've done a lot of world traveling, and from doing so, I've been exposed to a lot of different kinds of music. So, and I have a lot of friends from different countries. Like I said, I got friends from Russia and Ukraine, and Romania and Moldova and Latvia and Berlin. And a lot of those people are making music, and so I've kind of followed them and listened to their stuff.
Would you say that your style of music you've chosen these days has lent itself to these relationships you developed with these specific countries?
No, not at all.
Okay, because I'm doing that very carefully. You may have said, I see myself in many ways as the American equivalency to the people that I know in those countries, because they are modern musicians working within the folk traditions of their own country. And I, being a Southern American who grew up with bluegrass and Americana and country and rock, that's my modern vernacular. So that's what I'm speaking through. And my friends, you know, from Moldova and, you know, who know me through klezmer music, they're just as charmed as can possibly be to hear me playing the banjo. Yep. I mean, they were like, whoa, like, you know, wow, Mark plays the folk music of his own land. You know what I mean? They see that as
as an authentic statement, and that's where I'm trying to go with this. Is I'm trying to represent the Southern experience, but also relate it to my own Jewish experience all at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's a reconciliation, from that moment that I was there with Dell. You know what I mean?
It's just such a mixing bucket, as it were, of so many emotions and people and cultures. And I just, I could see it being a real challenge for you the wider you spread your brush, which is what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a hard sell, I'll tell you that.
Where can we hear your record?
Well, you go to Bandcamp. You simply go to Bandcamp. I think you just look up Jew of Oklahoma on the Bandcamp, and you will find it. I think it's jewofoklahoma.bandcamp, to be quite frank.
I believe so, yeah.
I think that's where you find it. You can listen to it. You can listen to it and see if you want to buy it right there. Then you can download it or buy a single track. I'll make a goodly chunk of the money the way that I wouldn't on Spotify.
Yep.
Or if you're going to be that way, if you're just one of those people and you just want to listen to my music, I think I'll be honest with your friends and neighbors. I think the gist of my music, the message of my music is important, and I would like to have it get out there. And if that's all you want to do is listen to it on Spotify, I would like you to listen to my music. It's better that you hear my music than you don't. If you feel compelled to support the arts, if that's how you were raised, as my father would say. That's a bless your dear hearts moment.
It is right there. That's a perfect definition.
That's an Oklahoma thing.
I love it.
If that was how you were raised, and wish to support the arts, you can make a donation. You can make a donation as little. You can have my record. I think it's $10.
That's awesome.
You can have a download for it, and you'll have my eternal. Then you're going to keep me, as we like to say, you're going to keep me in rights with the New Orleans Sewage and Water Board.
That's great.
That's where that's going to be going, because we're making it by skin's teeth.
And with this new CD, we'll be playing on Discover Texas on kzsm.org. I don't know if there's another place we can ask for it on radio, but I guess there are places this day and age they will play this type of thing.
Yeah, do this. Call up your radio station and ask for it by name.
I like it.
Ask Jew of Oklahoma. Accept no substitutes, unless, of course, you want to.
I feel like I might get it. Excuse me? I love it. So as far as future for you, I know you've come down here to see old friends and who knows what in Austin.
Well, I've been in this very studio working on a new record.
Yeah.
So I did some more banjo tunes for the new record. So the name of the new record is called The Jew's Harp.
Nice. I like it.
Well, that's a really racist name for an instrument. So I kind of wanted to reclaim that too.
I like it.
Yeah. So the name of the record is The Jew's Harp, and I've just got a few pieces ready for it. I haven't been in writing mode, but boy, I'm sure enthused lately. A lot to talk about lately.
100%.
So I might spit out some tunes. But it's really expensive making a record. I don't know where the money's coming from. I'll be frank with you. I have no idea where the money would be coming from to make a new record.
So that's Jew of Oklahoma, bandcamp.com?
Yeah, so maybe that's where I'll say. I think I've sold the last record. I think I sold a grand total off of Bandcamp. I think I sold a grand total of 22 copies.
Yeah.
Which means the $6,000 invested into it has not been recouped.
Yeah, man. Well, there's ways if you have physical copies and, you press the flesh on the road and you do all those laborious things, if that's your goal,
The road?
Exactly. You remember the road.
The road where gas is $4 a gallon and the hotel rooms are $175 a night and the guarantee is $75. Yes.
I think the guarantee's not been that high in years.
It hasn't been $70 in years. You're probably right. You're probably right, dude.
Man, I would love to hear you play another tune for us. You got anything you want to lay down on the show?
Let's see. Maybe I should play you some banjo tunes.
Some banjo would be good,
some banjo tunes.
It's a sweet sounding little thing right there.
I'm gonna play this one here. I'm gonna play you some the thing about the banjo is it's an African instrument.
Yes, Ralph taught me that.
It comes directly from Africa. That's where it comes from. And during the industrial, it got appropriated by European Americans, but not just European Americans, but Irish Americans. Were primarily the folks that took the banjo and kind of normalized it and normalized its tuning. And then...
Did you just say normal and tuning and banjo in one sentence?
It's crazy.
I'm just making sure.
I know, God knows. Back to the banjo jokes. Then the Industrial Revolution came along, and they kind of, once again, kind of formalized it. So it's an interesting instrument. It comes from Africa, and then the Irish kind of took it up and played it in minstrel shows, and they kind of did their thing to it. And then the Industrial Age, our industrialism kind of did another number on it, and then the Scotch Irish started playing their own fiddle tunes that they learned from that they brought with them from the Emerald Isles, and that's how we have old time, and then eventually bluegrass music. And my thought was, well, what if you took that same idea of taking this African instrument and instead of being an Irishman playing Scotch-Irish tunes on it, what if you were a Jewish person and got a hold of it and you just played old Jewish melodies on it? Well, what do you know? Well, there's a thought.
Yeah.
So that was my thought. So what I did was I've worked up a little suite of Jewish melodies. I'm gonna do this.
the emotions in that thing. That was a roller coaster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's three kinds of dances.
Yeah.
What you do is when you're at the dance, you kind of start off with this kind of 3/4 kind of a dance.
It's
not
ominous.
a waltz. It's not a waltz, but it's kind of a. That's a beautiful little dance. It's kind of low key, and then you kind of go. Then you kind of get them. Then they kind of like a little 2/4 dance, and then after you got people doing that for a while, then you pick it up.
That was the killer right there, dude.
Then you get them.
That was the mosh pit.
Yeah, a little bit of mosh pit. Get them a little like that.
I
and
like
see those
it.
dances. Like what I learned is those dances can go on 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, when they get going, man.
Yeah.
And the band just keeps cranking.
And that's the nature of like the percussion, the rhythm, everything built into this little guy,
Yeah,
and the
the
backbone
banjo.
of the song.
Yeah, and see, the whole thing is that the banjo is based on this African rhythm, right? That's like doom ducky doom ducky doom ducky doom ducky doom ducky doom. Whereas klezmer music is that's the rhythm of klezmer. So I do everything, even though I'm still using the African backbeat of. I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
So I'm still getting the.
And it feels right.
And I'm still trying to get the Jewish, what we call tom or flavor. I'm still trying to get the Jewish flavor, while I'm still playing the banjo. It's been difficult, but I've been pulling it off. And once again, it's not like I want there to be a whole bunch of Jewish banjo players playing this. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm trying to do like a thing.
You've uncovered a real market here. I see the dollar in this.
Well, it's not even that. It's not like I'm trying to get like a thing going on. This is just a deeply and highly personal expression.
And what Bill Hicks would say, "Oh, I'm not trying to get a thing going on dollar. It's a big dollar today."
We're taping this on a Friday night, okay? And Friday is the beginning of the Jewish Sabbath. When I was a kid, they made us sing gospel songs in school. So I learned a lot of them. Like, are you going to be a saint on that shore, or a sinner left far behind? Are you going to do as Jesus commands? Are you going to heaven sometimes? I learned that in school.
You can't sing those songs.
So the thing is that most what they call Jewish praise music is lousy. I'm on record, right? I'm on record. It's lousy. It's not cool. It's not a lot of fun. And so what I wanted to do was come up, like on each one of my records, I wanted to come up with, even though I'm culturally Jewish, I am an agnostic. I don't mind sharing. It doesn't keep me from going to synagogue. I go to synagogue regularly because just because you're an agnostic doesn't get you off the hook. And there's Jewish people out there who know exactly what I mean.
That's great.
Doesn't get you off the hook, people. But one of the things about Jewish custom and practice, what I want to say is that I wanted to make a cool Jewish gospel song, like a little Jewish gospel song.
Did you just say a cool Jewish gospel song?
I wanted to make a cool Jewish gospel song,
right.
you know, that could get played and that would make little Jewish kids think that Jewish gospel songs are cool. And also one of the things about Jewish custom and practice that I think is actually healthy is the Sabbath, the idea of taking time out, right? And so I wrote a song called Good Shabbos, and that's like a greeting on the Sabbath. Shabbos is Yiddish for Sabbath, so you say Good Shabbos, Good Shabbos. So or Shabbat Shalom is what they say in Hebrew, but that's somebody else. I say Good Shabbos, and so I wrote this song about what happens on Shabbos. A good Shabbos, gonna walk off work tonight. Good Shabbos, gonna light those candles bright. Good Shabbos, gonna rest up
with my friends. Study Torah till the Sabbath ends. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Gonna take out time and rest. Good Shabbos, so that I can feel my best. Good Shabbos. Tonight the family dines, making blessings over the wine. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Gonna open up the gates up wide. Good Shabbos to welcome the Sabbath bride. Good Shabbos, you better get on down to shul. Study up on the golden rule. On Shabbos, on Shabbos, on Shabbos, we unload our woes and cares. On Shabbos, join the congregation in prayer. On Shabbos, you better put that phone away. It can wait till another day. Yeah, on Shabbos, yeah, good Shabbos, yeah, on Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Yeah, good Shabbos from Six String Ranch, Discover Texas, and Mark Rubin. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. This is one of my dear friends that goes back for many decades, and I hope to see you back around when we do this Juice Harp album.
Oh, gosh, what a pleasure.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys. You can find Mark Rubin music at Bandcamp, and you can get him on Facebook to argue with you. I promise. Just poke him.
Just poke me. Hey, and as my old buddy Don Walzer liked to say, if we don't see you in the future, we'll see you in the pasture.
I'm going to do my favorite Don Walzer quote.
What's that?
Well,